Okay, let's go over adding together two numbers. Now, this video does assume that you've already read the W3 Schools material and that you have watched the Intro to Python video. All right, so we want to prompt the user to enter in two numbers, add them together, and then display the results. You want to prompt the user for what it is that they should expect the program's going to do. So we're going to toss in a print statement. We're going to say, please enter two integers to add together. Now that print statement in and of itself doesn't do much of anything, and so not much else to say on that. Now, for this next step, I am going to deliberately do it wrong to illustrate why you have to pay attention to the type of data that's going into your variables. So first up, we're going to say number one equals input. Anytime that we need to get input from the user, we use the input function. And we will say, please enter number one. I'm going to put a space in there because remember, this is going to be exactly as we enter it. So if we don't put a space here, the user will be entering the number like right against the colon. Does it matter? No, I just think it looks messy. And then we're going to do the same for number two. Please enter number two. Now that we have prompted the user for their input, we are going to add the two numbers together. So we are going to say sum equals number one plus number two. And then after that, we need to display the results to the user. For this, we're going to use another print. Now there's lots of different ways that you can get variables into a print statement. The method that I find the easiest to use is formatting the string. So we're going to put an F, a lowercase f, outside the quotation marks. And then we will say the sum of curly bracket number one and curly bracket number two, assuming that I can type correctly, is curly bracket sum. So you can see what we're doing here. Anytime that I want to put a variable's value, let's go ahead and highlight that. Anytime I want to put a variable into my string, I just simply reference that variable inside a set of matching curly braces. Again, this will only work if I have this F in front of the string. If I do not have the F, so I'm going to do this. This is incorrect, by the way. Do not do this. So if I do not have the F in front of that string, it's just a regular old string. Notice one, the color coordination changed. The color coordination changed so that it's just blue text. And then if I run this by hitting F5, I'm going to get the prompt. Please enter number one. Okay, so that'll be 5. Please enter number 2. 5. The sum on curly brace number 1 and curly brace number 2 is curly brace sum. Right, not what we're looking for. Cannot forget to put that lowercase f outside the quotation mark for the string. That is what tells Python, hey, format this string. And again, you can also tell by the color coordination. The curly braces should be this light purple color, and the variable should be the same light blue color as your other variable names. Now, if I run the program, and always remember when you run, you got to click back down here into the terminal to get the input down here. The sum, apparently this is the day for typos. There we go. The sum of 5 and 5 is not 55. So we're getting our variables displayed, but we're getting the wrong information. The reason for this is input, and if you mouse over it, it will tell you what this is doing. Read a string from standard input. So input gets a string, which makes sense because the user can input anything. They could input text, symbols, numbers, it doesn't matter. So it makes sense that input is getting a string. But when you add two strings together like this, it does what's called concatenation, which again makes sense. That's how you would expect strings to work. But that's not what we want. We want numbers. So what we have to do is we have to cast whatever input gives us to an integer. So before the input, I'm going to put in an int, open parentheses, and then at the very end, I'm going to put a close parentheses. So now, series number one equals int, open parens, input, open parens, please enter number one, close parens, close parens. If your parens are mismatching, like for example, if I take out the correct closing parens, you should get a red squiggle of doom indicating that, hey, this was not closed correctly. So pay attention to your color coordination, make sure there's no red squiggle of doom, and you've got the correct number of parens. Also going to do that for this one down here. So int and parens. Now this does introduce another source of potential bugs for our program. What happens if the user does not put in an integer? We will deal with that later. Always assume, unless I explicitly say otherwise, that when input is requested, you will get the input that you ask for. So if you say, please enter a number, when I'm testing, I will enter a number. When you say, please type Y or N, I will type Y or N. You can always assume that you will have correct input unless I explicitly say otherwise. And there will be scenarios in which we do that, but for now, assume you get correct input. All right, everything should be working now. So let's hit F5, run this. Click back down into terminal. 5, 5. The sum of 5 and 5 is 10. Hooray, we've done it. Again, not the most exciting of programs. Yes, I know. It's kind of rather simple, but it's a starting point. Again, the key factors here. We're using print to display information to the user, to instruct them on what's going to happen or to give them results. We are assigning values to variables. We are using the input function to get string input from the user. And we are using the int function to cast that string information into an integer information, performing addition and assigning that value to yet another variable, and then formatting the string with a lowercase f in front of the string, and then using curly bracket variable name to insert the value of the variables into the string. And that concludes this particular demonstration.